are the Three Dudes of Horror. I'm Toots.
Wormboy.
And Damien.
And we're back for the final episode for tonight, which is It. Stephen King's It. The miniseries. And like I said, next week we're going to review the remake.
See how that goes.
Yeah, so if you've been under a tree for the past, or under a rock I should say. You know,
under a tree? Whoa. Must be a fucking gopher.
It's coffee, too much coffee.
For the past almost 30 years. You've never seen it.
Oh, Toots.
Yeah. Alright. We're not even going to bother doing another take. Let's just do it. Alright. So pretty much Stephen King's It. It's about a group of friends known as the Losers Club that encounter this evil entity or evil being known as It, or as the way it disguises itself as Pennywise the Clown, played by Tim Curry. And the movie is split into two parts. So the first part mainly focuses on the children as they encounter it and defeat it. And then the second part deals with the same characters as adults in the movie 30 years later, and they have to defeat it again.
Yeah, so. I remember them making a pact when they were kids. They're like, if it comes back, we have to defeat it again. And I was like, God. After they sprayed it with what? What did they spray them with?
The aspirator. Well, they say it's battery acid, but it's aspirator. Alright.
Still creeps me the fuck out. I mean, I admit it. This movie, when I saw it as a kid, I mean, my mom didn't force me to watch it, but she was into horror movies. She still is. But she would tell me, like, if you don't behave, you know, it's gonna come out of the closet or, you know, out of the shower when you're taking a shower. And I was fucking scared. That's what she would tell me. But I'm looking forward to the new one. But this one, I mean, it's really creepy. It still creeps me out, like I said. I mean, does it still creep you out?
It does to an extent. You know, watching it back again, you can kind of, you know, like some of the special effects don't hold up, some do. You know, like for instance, when Pennywise is opening up the drain, you know, in the shower room, like you can kind of see, like, oh, okay, it doesn't look.
It looks really fake.
Yeah, but I mean, but other than that, like the makeup, the acting, everything is spectacular. Tim Curry does an awesome job as Pennywise.
Yeah, he does.
He plays it so innocently, especially the storm drain scene with Georgie. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. How appropriate. And but yeah, one thing I really loved about the movie is the cast. I thought the cast was really good. The kids, the adults. It introduced the world to Seth Green, because he comes out playing Richie Tozier.
He comes out?
Yeah.
Oh.
And the novel. I'm actually still reading the novel, and I swear to finish it before the remake comes out. 600 more pages.
Yeah, so this is the only one that even reads all the novels. Like I haven't had a chance to read that one.
I haven't read Christine.
But you're gonna read it.
Yeah, I'm gonna finish this book. Damn it. So, what are your thoughts, Damien?
Well, I don't know. Like my earliest memories of this movie were going to rent it at Blockbuster, and it was like it seemed like this big sweeping epic to like a little 10-year-old kid, the little 10-year-old version of me at the time. Because remember, it was like back then it was like on 2 VHS tapes.
Yeah.
It was like I like up to that point I was like, I've never seen a movie that is so, you know, expensive that it takes up 2 videotapes. Yeah. So I was like amazed, and I mean it's more or less the same, like you said, like at that time it was like just this like great movie, like this great horror movie. And when you watch it as an adult now, like some of the scenes are really melodramatic, like particularly in the second part. But it's just a great story. Like
it is.
Tim Curry, like you said, did outstanding as Pennywise. Like I guess it's like for the most part, I grew up in a small town, and it takes place in Derry, Maine, the fictional small town. And I don't know, like, it's you know, Stephen King is always like real, you know, he writes a lot he's like very faithful to like childhood experiences and stuff like that. And this is just like the pinnacle of like Stephen King, you know, writing to his childhood, I guess, or just children in general. And I like the idea that like all the 7 kids that make up the Losers Club, that they joke they call themselves the Losers Club because they get called that by the town bullies.
Yeah.
They're like all the misfits of the town.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, but together they're the only ones that when they're together and working together they have this bond that's strong enough to actually defeat this ancient evil that's been living underneath the area that eventually became Derry, Maine.
Yeah.
For like centuries, and it wakes up every 27 or 30 years.
Yeah,
to eat.
Yeah, in the movie it's 30 years. In the novel it's 27 years.
Yeah, and I mean I just like that whole idea that it's like the poor girl that gets ragged on for being poor, the kid with the stutter, the wimpy kid, the fat kid.
Well, he exploits your fears, you know?
Yeah.
But I like that whole concept of they're the ones in the town that when they're together, they have some sort of like bond that creates this power and they're the only ones that are powerful enough to combat it.
Yeah, they're the only ones that really acknowledge that it's, you know, all these child murders and, you know, and all these tragedies. Because in the movie they mention different tragedies every 30 years.
Yeah.
You know, that it's actually caused by this ancient evil.
Yeah, and this new one's 27 years, right?
Yeah, well, I think
years.
this new one is going to be a little more faithful to the book.
Right. Yeah, that's what I've been reading too.
But I think in this new one, I think it's going to take place in the 80s.
Right.
As the children, and then like 2016, like when they're adults, like in part 2.
But I mean, even the original miniseries, like as corny as some of the scenes are, it still stays faithful to the general concept that Stephen King had with the book. And you know that I like as I was saying, like they also kind of like they don't go too much into it, but it's kind of like all the kids kind of have these shitty like home lives.
Yeah.
So like their only like solace is each other, you know. Like, which is kind of a theme that comes up a lot in Stephen King's writing.
Yeah, and of course he introduces like the bullies and whatnot.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, even like out in town, like when they're alone, they're bullied because like they're all the misfits in town, you know. Like as I was saying, so their strength is that much stronger together because of that, because of all the crap they have to go through, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's why Pennywise tries to get them when they're by themselves, you know. Like with Georgie, of course, the famous scene, like when he's out there by himself.
Yeah, and
then the one in the shower.
Yeah, in the shower room at school with Eddie Kaspbrak.
Yeah.
And the other scene that really creeped me out when I was a kid, one in particular is where Beverly Marsh is hearing those voices come from the dream. You know, and it's just like, I'm so and so, we're all the dead kids, like that. And it's like, like, you know, it just creeped me out when I was a kid. And it still kind of does.
I was about to say that. This is so creepy out.
And we're like what I was talking about earlier, how all the kids are like going through trauma. How the quote unquote the fat kid, how he just recently lost his father. His father died in the war.
Yeah.
And so Pennywise comes to him, because he's having to like stay with like his uber religious aunt or something, and like they're basically like he gets treated like crap there by his cousin and his aunt. So Pennywise comes to him like out in the marsh, like on the other side of the creek or pond or whatever, like as his father in uniform, and he looks so out of place.
Yeah.
And he's just waving. Like, that scene still looks eerie to me. That one shot of the father from, like, Ben's perspective.
Yeah, I like that.
That one shot it's still creepy, like, right now. Like, they do it. And this is, like, a made-for-TV, like, miniseries, like that one scene.
Yeah, I still like that whole, you know, that's my home now, son, you know.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's still creepy.
And a notable thing I'd like to mention is George Romero was supposed to direct it. But
yeah,
due to scheduling problems and he wanted to do it with like 10, right, Damien, you said?
Yeah, originally his concept was to make it like this, because the book is so rich and there's so much material. Like the book's like over 1,000 pages, so George Romero wanted to make it like this 10-hour miniseries, and I guess ABC didn't want to do it, so.
Man, that would have been awesome.
Yeah, and
I think that they were still gonna have him, like they still offered for him to direct the 3-hour version.
Yeah.
But as you know, as we said before about Romero, he's like, well, okay, fuck y'all.
Yeah.
Like, so then it eventually went to Tommy Lee Wallace, who kind of has like a semi-decent directing career in horror movies, because he had the god awful Halloween 3 and Fright Night Part 2.
The original Fright Night Part 2?
Yeah, he directed. The same director that directed.
I didn't mind Fright Night Part 2.
Yeah,
I didn't mind Halloween 3.
No, Halloween 3 is fun, but by comparison to
the first two, yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I didn't know is that Roddy McDowall from the original Planet of the Apes.
From McDowell's.
And Fright Night. The original, Peter Vincent. From the original Fright Night. And Malcolm McDowell, who was Alex in A Clockwork Orange, and he comes out in a lot of movies. Like, they were considered for the role of Pennywise. And, you know, after reading that, I was like, nah, Roddy McDowall, I'm not doubting his acting skills. I would think he would be like a little too nice. Because he does kind of play that kind of like soft-spoken, you know, nice character to an extent.
I'm sure they would have done really well.
Oh yeah.
But in the end, I am glad that it went to Tim Curry.
Yeah. I think Malcolm McDowell would have been a bit creepy playing it, but after Tim Curry is like, I can't really see anybody else play it.
Yeah, well, I was about to say, I was like, now we're so that idea like of Tim Curry's performance is so embedded in our minds, like it's hard to imagine anybody else. But I'm sure those guys would have done really well too. But.
Yeah, it's just like I said, it's just like after seeing Tim Curry, like, nah, I can't really see anybody else doing it.
And Damien, I know you have a phobia of spiders. What did you think of the huge spider?
Oh, and the second
part was bad.
Yeah.
Like, those practical effects don't hold up at all. Like.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping if they.
So they don't scare you?
No.
Because you're scared of spiders, and it's a spider.
No, but it's not really a spider.
It
looks like in the movie, it looks like
a kid made it.
It just does, I don't know. But I mean, that's, I'm not really ragging on.
Well, they had limited.
I'm not ragging on the
They had a budget.
Because they were doing the best they could with the effects that were available at the time, and like you said, their budget.
Yeah, well, that and it's such a huge novel. It's over 1,000 pages that they can only put so much. Like even in a miniseries, like I'm sure they might have covered the majority of it if they were to do that 10-hour one.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, but for a 4-hour miniseries, I mean, I think they did a pretty good job.
Yeah, like I'm saying, like this was a made-for-TV miniseries that has gone on to be like one of the huge. I mean, people rank this movie up there with like the original Nightmare on Elm Street, like the real heavy hitters in horror, like the original Halloween, like, and Pennywise as an iconic horror movie villain. People rank him up there with like Freddy Krueger and Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, like Pinhead. And that's quite an accomplishment because this movie never came out in theaters. This was a made-for-TV miniseries.
Yeah, I remember watching this when it first came out on TV on ABC. Right. With my older brother, and we were like, "Hey, it's Stephen King. Let's watch it," you know. And then, you know, and at the end of the first part, I said to be continued. Oh, when are they going to show the second one? It was like 2 days later or something like that. And we just sat down and we watched the second part also.
Well, I love the Fright Night movies. I like Fright Night Part 2. Yeah. You know, and like Halloween 3 is good, disposable fun. Like I would actually say that I think, in my opinion, this is Tommy Lee Wallace's best horror movie. And this was a made-for-TV miniseries, as I said, and I think it's better than his other work in horror.
Yeah, and I liked how in the movie, you know, as the characters progressed, or at least when you see the characters, especially in the first part, as adults, and then they go to, they reminisce about their childhood. Like you kind of see the story kind of piece itself together.
Right.
You know, where they're starting to meet up, and then starting to hang out, and then dealing with the bullies, and then you know, especially with Mike Hanlon, that knows a lot of history from the town. That okay, you know, this clown, you know, this isn't the first time it's been in this town. It's been every 30 years, you know. And then towards the very end, where you see Stan Uris, and then you see them actually, you know, attempt to defeat it, you know, in the sewers.
Right.
You know, so I like how that story progressed.
And then as adults, he's like the tortured character that never forgot because he's the only one that never left Derry.
Yeah, and
like he refers to himself as the lighthouse keeper.
And then in the novel, from what I've read, I'm not gonna spoil anything. But the way it's designed, it's like you see them as adults, and then you see another major portion as children, then adults, and, you know, so it kind of goes back and forth in major parts. And between each part, it's actually Mike Hanlon narrating what was currently happening in the town, you know, like while he was making the phone calls and everything like that. Yeah. So it is somewhat structured, kind of like the novel, but I think the miniseries was a little more kind of, how do I say this? Like it kept going back and forth. Like each time you focused on a character, you know. So it's like adult, you know, Beverly, you know, childhood with the friends, and then like so on and so forth like that. So it was similar to a certain extent, but I think with the novel it was major chunks that were them as children, them as adults, them as children, them as adults.
Well, I think they did the best they could, for a made-for-TV movie. Like as we said, like before, with the resources they had available at the time, budget, like it's because this new one is actually a way bigger budget movie, theatrical release.
Yeah, and you guys should check it out when we do the review next week on Friday.
Yeah, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not taking anything away from the way they told the story in the miniseries versus the novel, like from what I've read. You know, like I thought they did a very good job in terms of the storytelling itself.
Yeah,
especially
like
the
that's
big
what
novel.
I mean. Like the core concept of the movie was like it is like this ancient evil that's actually like an alien, right? Crash landed in the area that would have been like thousands of years ago or something.
I don't know.
That would have eventually the area that eventually becomes Derry, Maine.
Oh, okay.
Like, and it's like this ancient evil that I guess in our perception in this reality is evil, that it likes to eat things that are afraid because they're tastier when they're afraid.
Yeah.
So it comes to you as whatever you fear the most.
Yeah.
Like Richie sees it as the werewolf, and you know what I mean? Like it comes to you as your inner worst demons. So that's really terrifying. Yeah,
and but as I mentioned with the structure, that was more for part one than it was like in the part two, like adult and children. But the majority of the movie in the first part was children, and the second part's adults. But after 27 years, you know, since this movie came out on TV, what do you give it nowadays? Like watching it as an adult?
I give it an 8.
Like, I mean, some of the parts get a little melodramatic. Like, as an adult, like, I have to admit, like, some of the parts, like, when they're adults, like, it gets kind of hard to watch. Like, they're very, like, I don't know. I mean, I would say a B, possibly a B+. I would probably give it a B. Like, the structure is really well, the storytelling is really well, the acting for the most part is good. Tim Curry kicks ass. I would probably say a B.
And you know what occurred to me right now as we're talking about this?
What would you give it to?
Probably like a B. I'd probably give it like a B. And what occurred to me right now is that it is 27 years since the first one came out.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Huh? Sorry.
That's what I said. Nobody pays attention.
I'm not sure that's coincidence.
Jesus.
They might have.
I think they purposely did.
Yeah.
Well, check out our next review next week, guys, and hopefully you subscribe and follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
All right. So I'm Toots.
Wormboy.
And Damien.
All right, and see you next week.